What's going on, all you console legends out there? My name is Keith Allen, your motivation guy, and today we're bringing you the best settings for you to dominate the enemies during Season 10. With Apex skyrocketing in popularity and a lot of new players flooding the scene right now, we think it's the perfect time to discuss the very best settings, as some very cool ones have been added since the last time we talked about this. Okay, so if you're struggling this season, give this video a watch all the way to the end, and I know you're going to improve instantly. You guys ready for this? Let's get this going. So to start us off today, we're going to be looking at the controller tab. The controller tab is where all the small finicky settings that directly affect what you feel when inputting actions from your controller are located. Button layout is an important decision to make, as some layouts allow for some actions to be performed easier. Moving crouch to right analog stick allows for easier crouch spam, but can mess with your aim while in a fight. So using the customizable layout allows you to pick exactly what you want to do, but for many players that use paddle controllers, any layout works, as you're going to change your paddles accordingly. A few other small things that you want to guarantee before we start messing with the AOC controls are the survival slot being on or off regarding your liking. This will change how you throw a heat shield or call in a mobile res, either from the menu by selecting it or by just pressing a button on your D-pad to pull it out. The next thing are your trigger dead zone. Now, some people play with the triggers swapped with the buttons on the top of their controller, and for them this isn't nearly as big of an issue, but for many this is overlooked. Trigger dead zones determine how much of a press on the trigger will cause the action to be performed. This means that on a larger dead zone, you need to press the trigger in more to aim in or to start to shoot. This could put you milliseconds behind the competition in every single fight, and so we turn these to none and forget about this setting. The last thing before we talk about AOC settings is your menu cursor speed. You want this set to a slightly higher but controllable speed. This will speed up those armor swaps and make looting easier, but not if it's going hyper speed across your screen, so be reasonable. The rest of the screen we actually want to dissuade you from messing with. Custom look controls, or advanced look controls as everyone calls them, allows you the freedom of fine-tuning your aim to how you like it, specific for your controller. For this section, we're going to use some references back to the initial page, as more than likely you're using more basic sensitivity settings, which we're going to use to find your AOC settings. Starting from the top with your dead zone, alright, we always put this as low as it can go. Then test it out to see what kind of stick drift you're going to get. Then increasing it by 1% at a time and just testing to see if the drift has been removed. Once you get to the sweet spot, we recommend leaving it there and increasing slightly as needed. This is no replacement for a new controller if something is wrong with it, so do keep that in mind. After that, okay, we're looking at the outer threshold. This just means how quick your stick will read max input in any direction. It starts at 3% on default, so just try that out for some time, then reduce if it's necessary. Now comes the time when you want to think back on the non-AOC sensitivity settings you had. Default, they are 4 to 3 on the classic response curve. So when we look here, we assume the default settings also mimic this. So response curve being on 8, we think of as classic. If you prefer linear, reducing the 0 up to 3 is going to feel pretty comparable. This is going to be completely by feel, guys, so just be sure to test these for some time before swapping. Below this, you're gonna find yaw and pitch speed. Yaw is the horizontal speed and pitch is any vertical adjustment speed. We always put the pitch speed lower than the yaw. For ease, okay, we like to just multiply what sensitivity we run, non-AOC, by 50 and have that as a starting point. Pitch speed, we try to put about 75% of the yaw. For example, okay, if your non-AOC sense is 5 to 3, then respectively, we should have yaw at 250 and pitch at 170. I know this is a lot of numbers, guys, but trust me, getting this dialed in is going to be the difference maker for you. So when it comes to ADS sensitivity, okay, you want to apply the same math to this. This doesn't mean that you're going to get the perfect combination of settings the first time. However, this is a great starting point for you. All of the extra turning speed and yaw settings we put at 0. The bottom 3 options should be left in their default settings unless you want to experience no aim assist or a lower version of aim assist. So that's pretty much it for AOCS, but you still may be questioning why we should use something that is so complicated. Alright, now onto some other settings people are going to find helpful. Since we're talking about settings, okay, the majority of our time is going to be spent in the settings menus. Only pretty fitting, right? So this is broken into 4 tabs for consoles and 5 for PC. Alright, don't worry guys, we haven't forgotten all about our console friends. Anyways, alright, the first tab is going to be gameplay, so that's the one that we're going to break down to start things off. Top of this list is the interact prompt style, and this is specific to the type of player you are. So if you're a newer player, we recommend leaving this on default. However, if you're even just one season in, we do think that you can put this on compact and enjoy less clutter in your HUD. This really doesn't have much effect if if you know the buttons for actions. Buttons, hence, we feel like you can leave on regardless of your time on Apex because some people just like it on. If you're new to Apex though, definitely have this on without question. Crosshair damage feedback also falls in this category as something that you can have on or off depending on preference. We like to have it set to off just because you already get damage numbers when you shoot someone, and the crosshair can clutter the screen in some of the most important moments in an Apex game. Damage numbers have multiple options to be set to, but we think that there are only two options. Either you want them off, which most people don't, or you want it on stacking. Floating is not beneficial in our opinion because no one wants to have to do math after shooting someone. It can lead to frustrated stuttering comms and that won't do any good. Ping opacity should probably be on default and not faded, but try them both out and just see what you think. You may like faded more. The next couple settings are obituaries and mini-map rotation. Okay, so not to sound like a broken record, but these are preference choices as well. Weapon auto cycle on empty is a setting that for some players they will love it on yes, and some will need it on off. For example, if a player is bad at swapping weapons when they run out of ammo, then this is a great setting. But for the player that is good at swapping weapons right on time with the ammo running out, this setting is going to cause them to do a double swap. A double swap will end with the empty weapon being the gun, which is out, and you're going to more than likely die in this scenario. Auto sprint we think is best turned on for controller players, specifically to increase the life of your analog stick that you would use for sprinting. There is a slight drawback to auto sprint, and it's in the form of a small delay before shots start after the trigger is pulled from a sprint. If you have this off in close quarter scenarios, you can walk and have that instantaneous shot reaction that could be the deciding factor in winning the game or being back in the lobby upset. And so double tap sprint is something that we have never changed from off, and we don't recommend that you do that either. For all the Valkyrie mains out there, we definitely think hold is the best option, as toggle tends to feel unnatural to really control for many people. The rest of the settings on this page can be kind of daunting, and really quite frankly, we just don't mess with the majority of them, so we will only single out a few of them. Death boxes closing due to damage should be disabled to enable the ability to do mid-fight armor swaps. And so this is something that they added after release, as many controller players were begging for it. Cross-platform play can be enabled to play in lobbies with all types of platforms, and so this includes Xbox, PlayStation, PC, Switch, and many more in the future probably. Alright guys, so last but definitely not least in this tab is colorblind settings. Many players that don't suffer from color blindness do end up changing this to Trinopia because, it just changes the red dot to yellow. This recently got changed to also affect armor damage color, but if you adjust it to then, it may be beneficial for you. If you guys are looking for a pro player to help you find the best controller settings for you, then ProGuides is the ultimate place for you to get all the information and coaching to really take your game to the next level. We have professional coaches and professional players ready to help you 24/7. Alright guys, after hearing all about these setting changes, you may be wondering, why should I use AOC? There are a few reasons that we feel using advanced look controls is more beneficial than trying to make the other settings work with your gameplay. For many players, their controller can be a hindrance to them as they aren't as comfortable changing into a respawn-made game. Using AOCs will help you guys fine-tune the controller how you like it to feel and react. Lots of players have aim issues that tend to come from bad settings. For example, using steady response curve when classic or linear should be the main ones you use. The other two tend to be a bit inconsistent for players, but AOCs are customizable and really fully in your control. Think about it in terms of a suit. Alright, if you get a suit from a clothing store, then it might fit, but not as nearly as well as a custom tailored suit. AOC is a tailored form of controls for you guys. Not only this, but some controllers may even be the issue for players due to some stick drift which can't be fixed without the use of them. Truly every player should use AOC settings in our opinion, but they can be overwhelming. To really speed up the process with that, we want to give you some tips to help. Now to dial in those yaw and pitch speeds as well as dead zones, you're going to want to do them in the firing range and not by dropping in and adjusting mid-game. Going into the firing range and animating the dummies will give you a good starting point to begin from. Making small adjustments and giving them a try for a few minutes will be plenty to really tell you if it's a good or bad change. Dead zone tuning is another thing that people may overlook but is so important. Making sure your stick drift is not showing through is first priority. But on top of that, you may like a slight delay on your stick moving to smooth out aim if you're not as crisp as you like to be. This is going to take time, guys, so don't rush it. Make sure that you get these right because you're not going to need to touch these much more once you have this dialed in, all right? There we have it, guys, our Season 10 breakdown of some important settings and how to fine-tune your AOC. Making these changes can be hard at first, but, once your aim gets adjusted to the changes, you're going to be beaming everybody. Definitely stay tuned for more controller-specific videos coming soon. Hey, if you guys liked the video, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Once again, this is Keith Allen, your motivation guy. Connect with me on my Instagram at Your Motivation Guy. Hey, we believe in you guys. Don't give up. Don't surrender. Keep up the grind, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.